Hey guys, MichaelBtheGameGenie here, and on today's video, just for fun, we're going to be taking a look at all the Arcade1Up cabinets I purchased, but then for one reason or another, to make room, decided to let go. So that's right guys, today we're going to be taking a look at all the Arcade1Up cabinets I had and then decided to part ways with for one reason or another. One of the really tough things about having a home arcade, whether it be a real one or one made up from toy replica cabinets, multicades, whatever, is finding that right fit of the games you want, the cabinets you want to display, and the space that you have allotted to you. Once you get to the point where I've been at now for over a year, and a lot of other YouTubers are at as well, where you've maximized the amount of cabinets or arcade machines you can fit in your space. Sometimes you'll get tired of the games you have and want to bring new ones in because new ones come out, or you just decide that you want something new to freshen up your arcade or change the dynamic of your arcade and bring something else in. But the problem is you have to say goodbye to something that's there. So today we're going to be taking a look at all the Arcade1Up cabinets that I did have that I was very excited to have, but eventually for one reason or another either lost their luster or I decided to replace them with something else. So first up guys is where it all started so many years ago. My very first Arcade1Up cabinet was in fact the Street Fighter arcade machine. You guys all remember it came with 3 games, 3 versions of Street Fighter 2 Championship Edition, Super Street Fighter 2, and then Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. While this cabinet was pretty cool, it did have its problems. There was only mono sound and one of the speaker audio didn't come out, so you couldn't hear it from one side when a guy was getting attacked. But otherwise, and of course it didn't come with bat tops, it came with the ball tops, which apparently is the Japanese fighting game style. Otherwise, it was a pretty cool cabinet. Now over the years, I spent a ton of money doing upgrades for this cabinet. I bought a deck protector to go over the deck. I didn't, like other people, was smart enough to reach out to Arcade1Up to tell them to send me my replacement deck, even though I had this early, so I ended up having to buy a deck protector myself. I eventually got a riser. I don't know what the hell they've got on this. This must be one they just photoshopped on, but I got a riser for the machine, which I had to buy from the US, and eventually I also got the official light-up marquee from the cabinet as well before I let it go. The reason why I did let it go, this is simple, and actually this is the first Arcade1Up cabinet I ever sold. It was the first one I bought and the first one I ever sold because I sold it to upgrade to move to the Capcom Legacy edition. And then, of course, we have the other half of the Capcom Legacy Edition. This is, of course, the Final Fight Cab, which is the 4th Arcade1Up I had as well. This was the 2nd generation. It wasn't available readily here in Canada. I ended up having to pick this up through London Drugs, which is an obscure retailer on kind of the west coast of Canada. But anyways, London Drugs was kind enough to provide me with a sale on this. That's how I picked up my Final Fight cabinet. Of course, it didn't have a light-up marquee. Had these 4 games, excellent, great diversity, especially Final Fight 1944 were the big ones to play. Really, really cool and unique cabinet, but I decided to, I don't know what the term was I was using at the time, this and Street Fighter, I could sell both and then consolidate into the Capcom Legacy where it had all the games from both cabinets. That was the idea. But I still do dearly miss my Final Fight cabinet. Then, of course, we had the Canadian version of Mortal Kombat, which you see here. It's listed as a superb combo, but what we had was a Mortal Kombat without a light-up marquee, only these 3 games, the traditional swan neck design and this riser that was sold as one unit here in Canada. This was my 3rd Arcade1Up cabinet I got, and of course, I was selling this because I was consolidating to the Midway Legacy cabinet, so I could keep all of my awesome Mortal Kombat games and get a bunch more while another cabinet would come in. So I sold this one as well. And just like the Capcom arcade cabinet, the other half of that Midway Legacy cabinet was the Rampage cabinet. I had actually bought this used secondhand much later on in the process, and the guy I bought it from, I went out and got a aftermarket light-up marquee. It was okay, but I like playing Rampage on it, but Defender didn't work right, and I was interested in... I had no love for the original Rampage game, so I was okay, more so than Final Fight, consolidating this, losing this artwork and arcade, even though I did think the side panel was super friggin' cool. I was okay with letting this go in order to consolidate it and still get to play some of these games on the Midway Legacy, and hopefully Defender would be a better experience as well. So guys, those ones were pretty easy sales because I was going to be getting the same games back in one way or another through consolidation with the Legacy cabs. Going on from this point on, I was going to be saying goodbye to games and there was no Legacy makeup. So let's move on to the cabinets that I got rid of because they didn't fit for me anymore. So guys, next up is one I dearly miss, which is my Marvel Superheroes cabinet. I bought this one on a whim. I did a project for my sister-in-law, built a set of steps on the front of her house. She gave me some cash and I ran down because it was available in the store and picked it up. Marvel Superheroes, super fun game. I had a ton of fun with it. And the Punisher, oh my god, is it ever so cool. Of course, mine didn't have a light-up marquee. It was the old wood marquee. This is one of the nicest looking cabinets with this comic book art style that's on the bezel, that's on the control panel. Awesome visual of Thanos on the side. I know it's not the original arcade art, that this was actually just a sticker, square sticker on the Marvel Superheroes cabinet on the art. So it's the expanded sticker on the side, kind of like X-Men vs. Street Fighter. I really, really, really friggin' miss this cabinet. However, I did have X-Men vs. Street Fighter. I was running out of room, and outside of Punisher, I had stopped playing everything else on this cabinet. So, unfortunately, this became a casualty to make room for some new stuff coming in. I am hoping in the future, however, that another Marvel Legacy type cabinet will come out that I can replace even my X-Men vs. Street Fighter with, that includes all those games, plus all these games, and maybe even a few more. That would make me extremely happy, because I do miss the Punisher quite a bit, and of course I miss Marvel Superheroes too. Next up is kind of a strange one because it's the Unicorn, or was the Unicorn for a while here in Canada. Of course, it's readily available for Arcade1Up again now. Not really the classic version, but the XL 3D Golf version. But at one point, I did in fact have a Golden Tee Classic Arcade1Up cabinet. What happened was the brick, after I had sold off my first couple of cabinets and got like the Legacy, Consolidate, I had a little bit of extra room for arcade cabinets coming in, and I got gun happy because a couple of Arcade1Up cabinets went on clearance at the brick, and I saw an opportunity to pick up a Golden Tee brand new in box well after anybody else could get their hands on it for $4.99, and I jumped. I took it home, and I had friends that were huge Golden Tee fans. I thought this would be a popular game in my arcade for them to come over and play. Maybe that's something we could play together. I was also hoping with the trackball as a unique controller, the kids might really enjoy it, but unfortunately that wasn't the case, and no one was playing Golden Tee. Due to that, and due to my own lack of interest, I would say, after a while, I just decided it wasn't a good fit for my arcade and decided to move it out, also knowing that I would have a very easy time passing this along to somebody else to buy. So Golden Tee exited my arcade, and I don't think I will get another Golden Tee in the future. It's an awesome game, awesome bar game, but just didn't fit what I was going for or what I was hoping for in my arcade, and didn't have the play I was hoping it would with friends. This one's actually a really, really funny story, because I very briefly owned the Arcade1Up Outrun seated arcade machine. My buddy Mike Dalton, he actually had picked up this cabinet, and he decided he was looking to sell it for $500 at the time. I said, sure, man, I'm feeling froggy. I will buy this cabinet from you. I bought it. I brought it home into my arcade. My wife was furious with me. My daughter loved the little sit-down arcade. But I got to admit, sitting down and racing was a fun experience. However, in the form factor that Arcade1Up provided, I didn't think it really fit me. I would have preferred the stand-up, but originally it wasn't available here in Canada. So this was the only version. after a while, I just decided where it was so short, wasn't really a good fit, I wasn't going to keep it. And of course, my buddy Mike Dalton reached back out to me and offered to buy it back off me for what he paid. So I sold it back to Mike Dalton and no longer had the seated Outrun arcade machine in my arcade. But as some of you may know, I eventually picked up Outrun, the stand-up, when it became available through Arcade1Up Direct, paid a fortune for it, but now I have stand-up Outrun in my home arcade. This is one I was both happy to sell and also regret terribly, which was NBA Jam, a staple of arcades for me growing up, a big at-home game we played a bunch. I loved having this in my arcade. I loved playing it online, but as my collection grew and new things were coming out, the 4-player aspect of it made it extremely hard to keep, unfortunately, because it took up so much room, and there were more 4-player cabinets coming out that I wanted to get that I truthfully wanted more than NBA Jam. So if I had unlimited room, NBA Jam would still be in my arcade. But because I didn't have room, I decided to put it up for sale, and I got back, not anywhere near what I spent on it, but got back a good return, so I decided to let NBA Jam go. I will admit, however, I almost repurchased this a couple weeks back. TSC had a flash sale here in Canada where they actually had this version of NBA Jam backup, except it was the one with the light-up deck protector and the included stool for only $199, and I very barely missed it by a minute, because if I had jumped on that sale, I would have an NBA Jam arcade machine back in my arcade today. This one really stings as well because I know I'll never get another chance to play the title game and the follow-up Millipede in the correct screen orientation probably ever again on an Arcade1Up cabinet, but I eventually let my first generation Centipede go, which again kills me, and it was my wife and kids' favorite game in the arcade too, mine too, to be honest. But I ran out of room and I just couldn't justify having both this and the Atari Legacy unit as well, so unfortunately I had to make the very difficult decision to let this one go. It still kills me to this day. Even the story of how I got this was a fluke. I got my brother to drive like 5 hours outside of town. He was coming back from a cross-province trip anyways, but we found it in the back of a Walmart, hidden away for $2.99, picked it up, and I loved this one for a full year plus. After I ran out of room in my arcade, I actually kept it in a separate room and used to play it from time to time, but eventually I just ran out of money, ran out of room, and even in my extra storage, and needed a little influx of quick cash and decided to let Centipede go as well. I do miss Centipede. Sure, I can play it on my Tempest Legacy, but the screen orientation is just the shits. It's not even a vertical on a horizontal screen. They also squat it, so hopefully with the new Centipede cab, Atari Legacy cab coming out, they at least fix the screen so it is vertical on the horizontal monitor instead of somewhat horizontal vertical on the horizontal monitor. Ugh. And getting into more recent memory, I actually have let go my Capcom Legacy Edition arcade machine, even though I did we started this video talking about how I was going to do the consolidation to get both the original Street Fighter and the updated Final Fight games on this cabinet, and of course the new look. An opportunity came up to trade this cabinet to my buddy Mike Dalton, who wanted to pick this one up. He was going to trade me this for his Killer Instinct cab. And at first I was like, I don't want to let go, but you guys know I had huge problems with the raised deck panels there. That was a little bit uncomfortable. Also, the marquee and screen orientation really required me to sit on a stool if I was going to play it. It was hard to play standing up, and because of those issues, I decided to make do and let this one go. It also didn't hurt the fact that I had also picked up a second Street Fighter 2 Arcade1Up cabinet. I had the big blue online connected cabinet, which made some of the games on this redundant, not all of them, but the Killer Instinct trade was just too good. I couldn't say no, so I said goodbye to my Capcom Legacy Edition arcade machine. Who knows, maybe eventually I'll get rid of Big Blue and buy the new Capcom Legacy cabinet in the future. So guys, we have the other half of that consolidation special. It's so funny because I sold those first 4 cabinets to consolidate to this one and the Capcom Legacy, and now they're both out the door. But unlike with the Capcom Legacy where I traded that, I actually sold this one, but this does have another Mike Dalton connection. Another guy that buys cabinets off Mike Dalton and has some dealings with him. Guy Stephen Rowe was down to Mike's and mentioned to him that he wanted a Midway Legacy. Mike said, why don't you talk to Mike Burry? He has one he'll probably let go. The guy reached out to me, offered me to buy it, and I wasn't sure if I was going to let this one go. Like, I'm very excited about the new Mortal Kombat, but I wasn't sold on whether or not I was going to buy it. I mean, I could play all my Mortal Kombat games in this, plus my favorite cabinet and favorite game in the series is Mortal Kombat 2. I mean, this Raiden side art is just so iconic, and I love the lightning logo for Mortal Kombat 2, so I didn't really want to let it go. I was thinking about keeping it, but Stefan reached out. He made me a very fair offer, and I was happy to help him out. This was the cabinet he really wanted. I still had the same issues with the raised edges on the side and with the viewing angles, plus that new Mortal Kombat just looks so great. So I decided to give in. I sold it to Stefan, and now I'm going to have the Mortal Kombat 30th Anniversary Legacy Edition. When that comes out, I will replace my arcade with that. And in the meantime, I actually have a free spot in my arcade, which is very weird to me. There's a spot in my arcade where there's no cabinet right now. Also, guys, I almost forgot about this. The timeline's a little screwed up here because this was actually sold before I let my Capcom and Midway Legacy go, but I actually sold my Marvel pinball. This was the second pinball machine I bought. It arrived at the exact same time as my Attack from Mars. I just got that pinball FOMO bug really bad, and at the time, it was readily available here in Canada. It was easy enough of just basically reaching out and grabbing it, yet in the States, it was impossible to get. So because it was so accessible, and because I had cash at the time, I couldn't help myself, and I picked up the Marvel pinball, added to my collection. I loved it. I had a lot of fun with it for the time I did, but as time went on and I looked at how much I was using the pinball machine compared to needing it for extra space and what I could do with other pinball machines. Like I use my AtGames Legends pinball machine to play most of my Zen pinball games right now. So I decided I could let this one go, make space, and pass this along to somebody else who'd really enjoy it. It's the exact same thing for my Star Wars pinball. Again, I had bought 2 originally. I said that's enough, and then I had an opportunity to sell my Xbox One and PlayStation 4 Pro because I had upgraded to the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5. So sold both of those, had cash in hand, added Star Wars as well. I had all 3 Arcade1Up pinballs. They all look great in the row, but exact same as Marvel. I had an opportunity to sell this. I could still play the games on PC through my ALP, decided that was just as good a way to play it, and it would give me more room back in my arcade. The other thing I didn't talk about with either of these cabinets is while these were really cool, and I think they're a blast to play, my arcade downstairs really replicates an original arcade, and these were really computer games made after the fact. The outside art doesn't represent a classic pinball game that you can find in the find in an arcade like Attack from Mars does. So I felt like while both were really cool, and I wasn't really playing them though, I was only playing Attack from Mars, and the art didn't represent what the rest of the cabinets did. It wasn't a multi-pin room, it was a room full of arcade recreations. Attack from Mars was that, Star Wars and Marvel really weren't. So ultimately, that's why I decided to let them go. So guys, that's it. If you can believe it, that's 11 arcade machines and 2 pinballs, 13 machines total I've bought from Arcade1Up and then let go for one reason or another. I sold 12 of them, traded one of them. So yeah, that's nuts. If you look at it, I have 17 machines downstairs, plus those 13 machines. That's 30 machines I've bought from Arcade1Up in total. That is absolutely batshit crazy for a 3-year hobby. Anyways, here we are. I've got my arcade with 1 space remaining. Dragon's Lair pre-ordered and on the way. Plus, I still want to get that MK30th. So I'm left with needing 1 more space. And as my arcade room and house isn't getting any bigger, and I'm not going to add an Arcade1Up, which is a multi-cade, but a single-cade to my multi-cade area, I'm going to have to let at least 1 more arcade go. And I already know what it is. as I mentioned on Chill and Chat with Michael B this week, Frogger, the bell tolls for thee, and unfortunately, I'm finally going to be letting go my Frogger Arcade1Up. I bought this one at the same time I bought the Golden Tea machine because it went on clearance, and I said, what the hell? I'll pick it up for $500. I love the actual arcade game Frogger. I love the fact it has a vertical screen. I love Time Pilot. I love Time Pilot 84. Everything about this cabinet makes me extremely happy. However, all the same things I complained about when this cabinet was initially announced, it has the wrong art on the cabinet, so it doesn't match that arcade accurateness. Same as the Marvel and Star Wars pinball. It sticks out a little bit like a sore thumb to me where it isn't an arcade recreation. So there's that, plus the fact that they don't have the original music for Frogger. That's less of a problem for me. I don't even remember the original arcade music for Frogger, but again, the authenticity is off, so that doesn't really fit in my space down there. And last but not least, the biggest determining factor for why I'm getting rid of this, much like the Pac-Man 40th Anniversary cabinet and Super Pac-Man cabinet and Miss Pac-Man when it initially came out, has a goddamn Vaseline softening filter, bilinear filter, whatever it's called, on the screen, which cannot be changed. There's no, what's the term? There's no firmware update coming to fix it. So every time I turn on all my other machines, they look crystal sharp, pixel perfect, and this one kind of looks shitty. I mean, the softening filter by far is one of the biggest mistakes Arcade1Up have made, and I don't understand why it was done in the first place, but unfortunately, because of that and all the other factors combined, that means Frogger will be leaving. That's really the cabinet that's leaving to make room for Dragon's Lair. At least I'm replacing one arcade classic done wrong with one arcade absolute must classic, which looks to be done pretty right. So anyways, guys, that's the whole list of everything I bought and then decided to let go to make room for other stuff coming in. Let me know in the comments, what do you think of the arcades I let go? Obviously, I'm crazy for buying over 30 Arcade1Up products so far in the past 3 years. I mean, holy shit, right? But am I crazy to let any of these go? Are there any of these that I've let go to make room that you honestly feel you couldn't part with and I shouldn't have parted with? Or do you think there's other stuff, you know what I have, that I should have got rid of before I got rid of some of these machines? Anyways, guys, let me know in the comments. This video is just for fun to talk about my history with Arcade1Up and to tell you the cabs that I did have and decided weren't good enough to stay in Michael B's Genie-cade for one reason or another. Anyways, guys, thank you so very much for watching today. Hope you guys have a fantastic day. This is Michael B. the Game Genie, and I'll talk to you next time.